Hello everybody, this is Jack with Let's Draw Today, and thank you so much for joining me and drawing with me today. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to draw an army man saluting. So if you've ever wanted to know how to draw a soldier, and more specifically a soldier giving a salute, this is the tutorial for you. The reference photo that we're using is actually one that I used back about 6 years ago on my Let's Draw People website, and I made a tutorial from this actual photo. But I was in the Army too in the late '90s, and the uniforms have changed quite a bit since I was in the Army, and they've actually changed a lot since this particular photo was taken 6 years ago. So they're constantly changing. So the plan for this tutorial is just to keep the pattern on the uniform very basic and general, and not worry too much about getting the exact pattern that you see on the reference photograph. But anyway, we can talk more about that as time goes on. I am going to use a basic grid, a basic 5x4 square grid like you see here. But I'm also going to show you how to do this using some general basic shapes to establish the outline, and then we can add some detail from there. But this is going to be mostly a line drawing, not shading. It's going to be very minimal shading, if any, for the purposes of this tutorial. As far as the grid goes, you see I have this grid that's printed on paper, and this resource, you can find this within the course itself. You can print this out. You can also draw the grid with a ruler on your paper, but this is a bit of a time saver. I'm going to show you how to you can just use this to transfer this grid onto your paper and get started right away. So I have the grid printed out. I have a 8-inch by 10-inch piece of paper right here, and let's show you how to do this. So with the grid paper, I have a graphite block here. This is a 2B graphite block, and I'm going to use this to apply graphite on the back of this grid paper. So flip the paper over, and you can see the grid lines on the back here. You might not be able to see that well on the camera, but if you're doing this along with me, you can definitely see it in front of you. If you can, you can hold it up to the light a little bit, let some light shine through it. But we're going to put some graphite along the lines that we see. I mean, if you really wanted to shade the entire back, you could maybe do that too, but I'm going to concentrate mostly along the lines that I see on the back, rather than getting the entire surface. All right, now do the vertical lines. Okay, so now that we have the graphite on the back of the grid paper, we're going to take the drawing paper, put that in front of us here, and now since this is an 8x10 piece of paper and my grid is on standard copy paper, 8.5 by 11, so this grid paper is larger than my drawing paper. So for that reason, I'm going to just get some tape and tape the drawing paper onto the surface of the table. And then take my grid and I'm going to put this on top. You know, I might need to move. I need to move my paper up a little bit. Okay, I'll take my, just had to move my paper up to get past this bar here on the bottom. Okay, now I'll take my grid paper and I'm going to try to center it, center the border of the grid within the edges of the drawing paper. So I'm just looking through the copy paper. Again, you might not be able to see it as well on camera, but if you have enough light in front of you, you should be able to see it on your paper. And I see the edges of my drawing paper underneath this copy paper, right along here and here, and I see the bottom edge and the top edge here, so that's just about right. So I'm going to put a little more tape down. Hold this in place. Okay, that's close enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just basically centered. And then you're going to take a pen. Preferably you get a pen that's not black, so you can get a blue or green or have a red pen here. And what I'm going to do is trace over each one of these grid lines. And then as I trace, the graphite from the back of the paper will get transferred onto the drawing paper. That's the plan there. And it's good also to use a ruler. And when you do this, you should use moderate pressure. Don't put too much pressure down. Otherwise, you might have some hefty indentations in your onto your drawing paper there. And you can also take a peek just to see if it's going through. And I can see it here. And we're gonna have some very light lines here, which is what we want. We don't want anything that's too heavy. It's kind of hard to see, but they're definitely there on the paper here. So we'll just continue doing that, and then using the reason I said don't use a black pen is this way you can keep better track of which lines you already traced and which lines you still need to trace. Okay, now I'll do the horizontal lines next. Okay, and I'll just do a quick check to see that it looks like I went over all the lines. And I'll flip my paper over, my grid paper, and I see it looks like I have all the grid lines on here. Okay, so all right, now that we have the grid transferred onto the drawing paper, we can start drawing the basic shape of our army soldier here. Now, you don't have to use this grid as you draw along with this tutorial. It's just an option for you to. The grid helps you just as we're going to draw basic shapes here, like for the head and the neck and the body and the arm and things like that. The grid just helps you to better position the shapes and to draw them with a proper size, and it just gives you a little bit more support and help as opposed to drawing it without a grid. So you can definitely do it without a grid, but this is just this gives you an extra layer of help. So I want to, that's why I want to use this to just kind of encourage that for those of you that need it. And if I wanted to use a grid with more, if I wanted to get more detailed, I could definitely put more grid squares down on the paper. But the fewer grid squares you have on the paper, it just helps you to be able to draw with less support, and it increases your ability to draw by freehand methods and without. I guess what I'm trying to say is the fewer grid lines you use, that just helps you more in your freehand drawing abilities. So it just gives you more confidence. So you can use more or fewer lines for particular projects that you see fit.